Good morning. I'd like to add my own congratulations and welcome for making it not only to Valencia itself, but for this morning. So we're going to talk this morning for about 10 minutes to just set the scene about mobile and look really how mobile has evolved as a medium in the last 10 years, certainly since I've been involved in it, which is really when the birth of mobile advertising happened. So I'll just introduce you about AdMob, and the most important thing here really is to say, to stress the kind of size of the business at the moment. I mean, a lot of people still think that mobile advertising is still in its infancy, but we already do more than 14 billion ads every month. And to put that into context about how we grew in the last 4 years, because we were only 4 years old as of this month really, in our first 6 months we did about 70 million ads, which we thought was fantastic considering there were about 3 of us involved in the company at the time, a little startup based in Silicon Valley and already in Europe. Our next 6 months saw 1 billion ads being served. Our next 6 months saw 5 billion. Until today, we see over 14 billion every month. So this is already a big business. It's already happening. So if you're not involved, perhaps the first thing I'd like to say to you is maybe you should take a look at this because it's serious and it's growing very quickly. You can see some of our publishing partners on the screen there at the top on the top right. The publishing partners are people we go to and we say, you've got mobile web traffic or increasingly traffic within mobile applications. Can we work with you, serve ads, and when we serve ads, we'll share revenue with you. Obviously, an awful lot of them have said yes, including big brands and some purely mobile brands who maybe you won't have heard of. At the bottom, you can see a suitable selection of big brands who are already using the channel, some of whom are already spending more than $1 million plus per campaign. Today we work with over 7,000 mobile websites, ranging from sites which have a couple of page views a month to ones which have millions and millions, or hundreds of millions, I should say. And increasingly, as I say, we're working within applications, and we'll come on to that in a minute. So what's kind of happening in the marketplace that made this huge growth happen, really? And I think what we call the kind of end of the beginning was a couple of years ago when we had a world which was very much controlled by the operators. It was a closed world, and if you wanted to do anything in mobile, you really had to go and talk to them first. Otherwise, there wasn't much you could do to get around that. They were quite hard to deal with in those days because, they were big companies not used to making quick decisions. And I think most people who were involved in the mobile market in those days would recognize that it was a very frustrating time. Coupled with that, we had some very poor consumer experiences. It took forever to do anything in terms of downloading or looking at websites or anything. We had very expensive data plans, which meant that if you managed to watch a video or something on your phone and wait for about an hour for a 14-second video to download, it would cost you a fortune. People were saying at that time, "Oh, I watched a video in my lunch break and it cost me $48." So those days are sort of gone. And we had phones, you can see on the right there, with very, very limited capabilities. Yes, they could send text messages. Yes, they could do voice calls, which is obviously what mobile's all about. And you could do sort of the old black and white WAP world, which meant the potential for advertising was very, very limited. It was really restricted to push marketing, where we would start sending text messages to opted-in databases, perhaps containing special offers from shops and advertisers. But it was very much the old interruptive style of marketing. And when we did have mobile websites, they were the old WAP sites, which were black and white, slow loading, etc. So it was a very frustrating time, and it was very difficult to look at the potential of mobile in those days and say, hey, this is going to be really big. Some of us stuck with it, fortunately. And in the last couple of years, we've seen huge strides. First of all, we've moved away from the operator world to an open world where you don't need to go to the operator to do business anymore. If you're a publisher, big or small, you can launch your website in the same way as you can in a PC environment, and it'll work in very much the same way. Coupled with that, we've got very high-speed networks now and getting faster and faster. That's really important as we're used to broadband on our PCs. We need fast loading experiences on the mobile too. Largely pioneered by iPhone, we got affordable data plans, which means that people don't need to worry about how much they're using the mobile web or how much we're using applications, etc. And that was a great step forward, where we no longer needed to worry about the whole experience of what we used to call bill shock, where you got your bill and were shocked. And we also got the rise of the smartphones. I think Apple, obviously with the iPhone, was the pioneer, which really set the standard here. But we've now got other ones, such as BlackBerry and increasingly Android, which are showing very similar signs to the experience we saw early on with iPhone. What does that mean? Well, we've got lots of people using mobile web now, and increasingly applications both on Android and iPhone and BlackBerry. We've got very much pull advertising, which is much more familiar with traditional advertising we've seen from the digital world. And we've got publishers and brands from the traditional publishers and brands coming in, both the media brands and also the big brands we saw earlier on, like Coke and P&G, etc. We've also seen the rise of the apps. That's important for a number of reasons. Obviously, people like to download them, consumers like to download them, which means that it gives us a great source of inventory to show ads within, and we'll come on to that in a second. But it's also meant that many advertisers have actually launched their own apps in a way to engage and communicate with the consumer, which, again, I'll show you an example of that, of one of the latest ones. So, picking up a point Greg made earlier on, when a medium starts, it tends to borrow what came before, and we saw some of the examples of the dog food ad. I chose this because I thought it would be quite topical on the second morning in Valencia of a hangover cure. It doesn't say it's a hangover cure, but it's from 1898. The sensibilities of the age said that you didn't talk about hangovers, you talked about sort of headaches and nervousness and stuff. But you can see it's a very, very simple ad. It comes from the heritage of the old publications which came before it, but it was in a magazine. It's black and white. The copy is pretty obvious. It's boring. It's the very early stages of a medium. And if you fast forward to what that medium looks like 100 years later, you can see it's very different. We are talking about hangovers here. We have come out of the closet in that one. We're talking about humour. We're talking about colour. And if you compare the two, you can see that they're completely different. And that's how a medium developed in about 100 years' time. TV advertising similarly started in 1938. It took about 70-odd years to do. And we'll just now go through and see how mobile has changed in that time. So, as I said, in the very early days, 2000, we were sending text messages out to people. It worked up to a point, but it was obviously going to be a very limited medium. A couple of years later, we got MMS, which is essentially colour SMS, for those of you who don't know what MMS is. Again, there have been some great case studies, in particular BMW, which made hundreds of millions of dollars from a couple of campaigns it's done to tell people to put winter tyres on their campaign. But again, the possibilities for traditional advertising or advertising as we recognise it are pretty limited. Back when we started to do text banners. These are incredibly popular today still and probably account for more than 70% in terms of the volume of ads we do. They are very effective, but again, possibly very limited in terms of what might get your creative director excited. We moved on to banner advertising, more recognisable to today. And then the iPhone was a great break forward for us because, first of all, we were able to do in-app advertising, which seamlessly allowed us to launch new formats, which actually started to take advantage of the mobile itself, such as click-to-call and increasingly sophisticated landing pages to engage the consumer with the brand experience. Last year we launched video, and I'll show you an example of some of the latest work in that in a couple of minutes to show you how far we've come from the year 2000. And what's on the horizon next? Well, first of all, there's location. Increasingly, certainly in the US, brands are looking at location and seeing how they can use where people are in order to address the message. It's more complicated than it sounds and needs a lot of thinking through, and I think I'd be the first person to say as an industry the new challenges have yet to be really thought through, but we can now pinpoint where people are and create relevant messages for them if we can work out the best way of doing that. We've also got augmented reality, where you can, the latest version of it, you can point your phone at various places around the world and actually see annotations from consumers and from brands around that. That's very interesting and very cutting-edge and experimental, but personally I don't think we're ever going to get very far as an industry if we focus on that until we actually can see that the augmented world through some kind of glasses or contact lenses, if you want to be even more futuristic about it. But at the same time, for brands who want to play around with extreme early advertising experiences, it's a great opportunity. I think what excites me particularly at the moment is the whole world of coupon redemption. Now, we've talked about this for a long time, and frankly, no one's ever cracked it because we've talked about sending barcodes to phones, which you then have to scan into point of sale at retailers. Often the barcodes can't be read, or when they can be read, and it's all a very sort of bitty experience. You can do it on a micro level, but it's certainly very difficult to replicate on a national level in, say, the US or the UK or any big market. But I think this is a great example of a huge opportunity where you can show an ad to a consumer. They can click on the ad, go to a landing page, and order a coupon or a free sample. That generates an SMS to their phone containing a PIN code. They take it down to any chip and PIN in any retailer, put the number, the PIN code into the chip and PIN machine, as you can see there. And that automatically deducts the coupon or gives them the free sample. The retailer doesn't really need to be involved, and these are able to be replicated on a national basis today. So we're working with a number of big and small brands at the moment just to start those things happening, which will actually open a floodgate, particularly in the FMCG market, fast-moving consumer goods, to actually involve them in the couponing side of things. So, as I say, we've gone from this 10 years ago, very, very fast evolution, to this kind of thing which we see today, which is a new Reebok ad which we've been involved with. You can see the banners there, but hopefully if this works, yes. When you click on a banner, you can see that it drops down and gives you more information. So again, you're looking at something increasingly sophisticated and engaging. There's another example. Then they go to a landing page, and this is really important. A lot of people think about mobile and say the opportunity is very limited because all you've got is a little banner at the top. Well, actually, the banner is the invitation to talk to people, and the actual real conversation happens when they reach your landing page. So it's very important that you invest at least 50% of the creative thought into what happens when they get there. In this particular case, they've got a number of different options. They can watch a video, which I'll show you how that works in a minute. They can find the nearest store information. They can look up information. And again, it gives you a real way of taking the consumer through the brand experience out to where that you want them to do, in this case, buy a Reebok and find where the nearest store is. So when somebody clicks on a video, this is hopefully what happens. It really gives you the immersive experience, which is only possible today on mobile.
Energy drink for your feet. With ZigTech, I get more train, less pain.
So you can see the evolution, and in fact, that's really revolution now. It's something which 10 years ago most creative directors would have poo-pooed at. Nowadays, they're getting excited about it and asking how they can be involved. I'm going to leave you with a final thought, really. Like the digital world, mobile is global, and it's global in two ways. First of all, it means that you can actually put together global campaigns. Anybody who's interested in running a global campaign this afternoon, we can do that for you. You can run in every single country where there's mobile phones and spend money and reach people in a way which you couldn't have done in any other media. But I think more importantly, and we've talked a little bit yesterday about the next billion consumers. P&G talk about, as a company, they need to reach the next billion consumers. We saw Coke and heard from Coke saying that they wanted to double the amount of Coke which they sell in the next 10 years. The only way they're going to do that is to reach out to these people in emerging markets. Now, in emerging markets, they often don't have TVs, they don't have PCs, certainly. In fact, they're jumping from PC straight into mobile. They don't read newspapers. And if you want to reach out to rural India or indeed in China or whatever, those places really can only be connected by mobile. Mobile is the only game in town when you think globally, and therefore it's going to be incredibly important. So thank you very much. That's me. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them by email, or you can follow me on Twitter.